Welcome to the Language Hacking Podcast from Fluent in 3 Months.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Language Hacking Podcast. This is your host, Benny, with you, and today's episode is one of our shorter form Ask Benny episodes where I take questions that you guys have been sending me and I focus on them for 5 to 10 minutes. So today's question is from Charlie, and he asks, should I watch a movie in Spanish with Spanish subtitles or with English subtitles? So this will also be relevant for any other language you may be learning, but I have a very particular opinion on this. And I think a lot of us would be familiar with watching movies with subtitles when we're not familiar with that language. And it's very, very easy in that case to simply tune out the language and focus on reading. And I know I've seen movies in the past when I wasn't learning that language and I just read the subtitles in English and tuned it all out. Now, what I found when I first got into learning Spanish, what really benefited me was watching stuff that I had already enjoyed in English in Spanish with Spanish subtitles. So in my case, I started watching The Simpsons. And I would see episodes that I had already seen in English, but I was watching it in Spanish and with Spanish subtitles. So the thing is, a lot of stuff that you might enjoy watching, if you want to truly enjoy the show and your language level may not be at the high enough level yet to fully enjoy it, just watch it in English first and then come back to it. And you already know what's going to happen. You know the plot lines. You're not going to get distracted by that. And you can focus on language learning. Maybe you're smarter than I am and you're very good at multitasking and you can both enjoy a show and use it as a learning opportunity. But in general, for me personally, I find that I really need to be in learning mode when I'm using a language. And if I'm watching a show in one of my target languages, I don't necessarily count that as relaxed time. I would like to have something out, at least my laptop with a Google Sheet open, that I can make a note of the new words as they come. So generally, if it's a show that's been dubbed in multiple languages, I would just watch it in English first and then watch it in that target language. Or otherwise, just start watching it in that target language that you're learning, but feel free to pause it and look up those words ahead of time and see what it means so that you can appreciate it fully and then maybe rewatch it a second time in that target language again. And this way, English or whatever other mother tongue you might be working with doesn't interfere. So generally, that's my thought, is that you should watch it either in English and then a target language, or in just your target language, maybe 2 or 3 times. But when you're truly watching it in that target language, you want to have the subtitles also in that target language. You do not want to have them in English. And the thing is, what I've really found with this is you know what they're likely to say if you have seen it already. And this way you need the translation less because you kind of know the plot, you know what they're talking about, and you can do those translations in your head. And this is one reason I was able to learn so much from watching The Simpsons in Spanish, because I already knew more or less what they were talking about without needing translations. But it also helped me to solve this big problem I had of associating the sounds of the words they were saying with the written format, because I could read the language pretty well at a certain stage, but I couldn't really understand when people spoke to me. So having that association with the spoken form and the written form is another reason why having subtitles in the language that you're learning while they're also speaking that language on screen can be extremely beneficial. I personally don't see any really big benefits out of having the subtitles in English, because I personally would just end up reading that English and tuning out and kind of ignoring the audio, as it were. And it wouldn't really be a learning opportunity for me. But that's kind of what my advice would be in a nutshell. And of course, I'm sure people listening may be aware there's tools you can use. Like there's a browser plugin for Chrome called Language Learning with Netflix. I don't generally watch my Netflix shows myself in Chrome because the browsers have limitations that don't let you watch it in 4K. I prefer to watch it on the TV. So I personally don't use these plugins. I would just have a laptop separately and open up a new tab to find the new words. But if you're okay with watching it on your computer screen instead, then use a plugin like this. It can be very good to automatically pause it after each line of dialogue, to let you hide the English translations while the Spanish translations are there at the same time, to save vocabulary to study later. There's lots of extra things like that. So again, that plugin is language learning with Netflix that you can put into Chrome. But again, what I personally do is just manually go through and pause the video when they say a word I'm not 100% sure of. And if I want to make it more enjoyable, I would just watch it all the way through with the subtitles and just accept I'm not going to understand a lot of what's happening, but just enjoy the general plot and know I may be missing a couple of dialogue points, but then rewatch it a second time and be truly ready to pause it and to look things up, to add them to my vocabulary database and things like that. So that's what I would say if you're watching shows, to absolutely use it with subtitles in that target language, with everything else that I had said added to that. So hopefully that's helpful. And if you guys enjoyed this, don't forget to give us a review. We always appreciate that. Just go to languagehacking.com/review or bring it up in the app you're currently listening to and give us a positive review, or feel free to give us any feedback or send us your questions if you'd like me to tackle them in a future episode. So thanks again for listening. Until the next time, happy language learning.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Language Hacking Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you found this episode valuable and want to help us out, please leave a review at languagehacking.com/review. The Language Hacking Podcast is presented by Benny Lewis and Shannon Kennedy and produced by David Sobel, with special thanks to the Fluent in 3 Months team. The theme music was written and performed by Shannon Kennedy. Find the show notes at languagehacking.com/podcast. Thanks for listening and happy language learning.